I'm wondering if you guys could touch on the needs and what, how crucial is it to kind of know that vocab?
Um, we normally have an exercise in our workshop. The best way to really connect and learn about needs is to have a supportive exercise that goes with it, support people to kind of like have a connected experience to fully kind of appreciate them. But the thing to understand is that the best way we can say it is that it's like there's a life force or this energy that moves through all living things, and it's there. And the needs, and the language needs is interesting in our culture because you can learn sales and they talk about needs and wants, and you've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's not to do with that. I think like when Marshall coined the name, we're talking about 50s, 60s. So we tend to call them values now or longings. And the opposite to a need is a strategy. And so a lot of people get the strategy mixed up with the deep longing that goes underneath it, you see. And so with the needs vocab is that when I offer a need to Deb, I'm not reinforcing any strategy or idea that's going on for her. I'm just offering the value, just the value. And then that gives Deb more of a chance to connect with it. So I guess what I'm attempting to say here is that the needs language is a wonderful way to connect to that life energy that moves through us. It's one way, there are many ways. But it's just, the word is not it, but the word supports us to connect with it. So when we begin to increase our needs and our values vocab, it just becomes a really useful way of really connecting with people and ourselves. Yeah, you add on to that.
Yeah, I guess when I consider like the language of the needs, because I think about kids, right, who at young age don't have a lot of language, and yet they're constantly communicating something. In fact, I was having a conversation with my daughter about this morning when she was describing what a 3-year-old, or even might have been 4-year-old, said to her a couple of weeks back, and we were talking about this thing that this kid had said, and this kid had said, oh, "I don't want you to come over to my house," right? And we were talking about how actually that neither of us thought that that's what he was attempting to say. Mm-hmm. That it was more that he was attempting to say, actually, right now I want mummy time, mm-hmm. right? And so there's that craving for connection. But it's like it seems to be that in our culture that we seem to be quite good at knowing what we don't want, but how do we articulate what we do want? And so that was a classic example of when this comes up. And then I talk with her about, how as adults who have the language, can we inquire into our kids to what they're truly saying underneath those words, and how we can take guesses. So I don't reckon we specifically that we require the language so much as that it's the curiosity and the desire to connect that I reckon is the most valuable. Because even if we are clunky at the language, if our intention is to connect and to really attempt to understand what's going on for another person, and they get an experience of that's like massive. So that's another part to it, you see. So yeah, that's definitely another piece to this that I've been pondering since my conversation this morning. About the other part that's really important about this. But also helps, and then it is also important to have some connection with those words, because if we are attempting if we're with someone who we're expressing to, and we've been using a certain language all the time, and then we get the same response, as an example, and maybe we can find other ways to say what it is that's important to us. Like, really, I long for community. Like at the moment, it was just an example, is that at the moment, if I was somebody who was like living at home by myself, and I really struggled with that, then I might say something like, I really long for community, for connection. And then, but I might have been brought up to say, hey, I really want you to come over to my house right now. Then the other person is like, what? I've got my own family to look after. So it's how we communicate can also have those rubs. So there's a bit of being able to really listen to what's underneath the words, and how to connect and how to communicate in a way that we can be heard or increases our chances of being heard. So it's like a multifaceted thing that's going on, really.
Cool, I really enjoyed that explanation. I like how you brought the kids into it, because that was kind of where I wanted to go. How have you found NBC has supported you as a parent?
Comes back to the NBC starts with me. So the most important thing I've found as a parent is to have my own kind of empathy support. Marshall would quite often say, sometimes it's 5 minutes with your kids and it's 2 hours of empathy from a good friend. And so what I've found really useful over the years is to have my own empathy support out there. Parenting's the toughest job in the world. You just think you work it out 1 minute and it's totally different the next. What else? Marshall would also say, if you want to be depressed, it's really easy. Try and be the perfect parent. And so the first part has been really around having, I've been so fortunate. Deb and I have been together for a good 14 years now. So we've just had that co-NBC parenting model between us with our own kids. And the other part of it then is getting empathy first. The other thing I've found is never to educate when I'm in a high emotional state. Like take a break, take a pause, and then if I can, connect with a needs list, feelings and needs list, or get some empathy, and then revisit it at a time when we're both open to hearing each other. So there's been a few really important key things that I learned early on that have been really instrumental in with the kids, and then taking opportunity to hear them. And then when things are quite tough and we're working something out where there's been a rub between us and things haven't worked, we've spent a lot of time setting up a reflective listening structure that I would go to say that the needs are been really important in our relationship. And then with the kids, it's slightly different because they might not have the language, or they don't want the NBC robot in front of them. But it still is a reflective practice where we agree to reflect back what the other is saying before the other shares. It's something that we've built in for the really tough times, not all the time, just when it's really tough. And then we're in a position to have to listen to each other. So those would be important aspects that I've kind of learned a few of them.
And the one that I would like to offer, actually, that's probably most on top is, and it's building on the story that I shared before around the shopping. And for me, it's really important that I'm able to express regret. Like, I'm not perfect. And even though, we've been doing this for many years, but we're human. So it's like, and so one thing I really enjoy about myself, if I say it that way, and what I've learned is that I'm okay to go to the kids or go to whoever and go, hey, when I did that, or I said that, like, certainly didn't mean my need for care, or as in I want to be caring in the world. I wouldn't really say, I would say something like, hey, when I spoke to you like that, it's really important for me to show care, and I really didn't do that, and I'm feeling pretty stink about that, and it's important that that I demonstrate care towards you. So I would express in that way. So I'm okay, I'm totally cool to do that. And then I know in I can't think of another word other than culture. It's not really appropriate, I suppose. It's in our world, we are quite educated to say sorry, right? Such and such does that, I'll go and say sorry. and then we hear that, but there's like, I don't know, just like in NVC, we are encouraged to stay away from the word sorry. And if we regret, if we're expressing something that's gone on that we truly regret, then it comes from that place of like there's a whole different experience. Because in my expression of regret, I'm actually really connected to what's important to me and what I was rubbing up against when I did what I did. And my experience is when I come to somebody with that, is that it's like it's often like deeply received, and it just creates that level of connection. And I think too that it also says, hey, no, there's no power over structure here. There's no adult-child relationship. It's just human to human. Like, I care for you. And so that's something that like a distinction that I would say that comes forward quite a bit in my relationships with our kids. Yeah. That's pretty key. Can I just, no, stick with that.
It's such an empowered apology. It's like I've written down, it's a new way of apologizing, where you're in touch with your own body, and it's
that's it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't come with a should. Like, no one's saying to me, oh, you should apologize or you should say sorry, because it's like that actually. And in that moment when I was doing what I did, I was attempting to meet some kind of need. And I regret that it rubbed up against also what's important to me and what's important to you. So there's a whole thing in that, right? It's a whole complicated. But yeah, we just say sorry. It takes all that. Just takes out such like a rich possibility of connection. We just say that. So yeah, that's what I mourn about that word.
Yeah, it just takes me back into that beginning when you were talking about the dance, listen, receive.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that we're kind of running out of time. There's a few options here. Do you guys, are there any more quick little, how would you like to finish it? Would you like to talk more? Is there anything that we've kind of touched on needs? We've touched on the jackals and the giraffe. We've given the examples. Are there any other key kind of example that you feel like would kind of paint a good picture of NVC?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the number one key idea really is self first. Like look after ourselves first, empathize with ourselves, and then and then take that out to others around us. But I think some clear kind of coaching or supportive workshops can help. Like I think that's useful, and for me personally, I believe like start practical, and then allow the depth to come. Some people want to just hurry to the depth. But Ike Lassiter wrote a very good book, actually, it's called Words That Work in Business. But he talks about learn the basics first and learn them really well, and really ingrain those: observation, feelings, needs, requests, and then from there begin to play with it. And so our approach is practical, is really supporting people to practically go out and start using it. And the other thing really is learning to go lightly on ourselves. I think Deb's already mentioned that, just learning to go really easy on ourselves and know that we're just out there doing our best, attempting to meet our needs. And there's one thing I've really learned over the years, it's just to lighten up on myself. And then I tend to lighten up on those around me. And so those just be some things that have been important to me, are important to me.
Okay, in this moment I can smell apple crumble actually. Our daughter is making apple crumble when I'm noticing the wafting through the window. So your gratitude. And I guess how I want to wrap it up really is, so firstly, the thing that's most alive is just I'd like to acknowledge in this moment all the people that have come before us, the workshops that we've attended, like our good friend we mentioned, John Cunningham, who passed away this year, very, very instrumental in supporting us to design our workshops. A lot of what we initially offered and do has been based on what he has taught us, and so really wanted to bring him in. Everyone that's been on our, I suppose, in our training journey, or the participants that have come to the workshops, because that's how we grow and working with people. And what I value about that is people show up. And what I mean by that, not just like, physically showing up, but emotionally showing up. Mm-hmm. And so people come to the workshops and they're like, sure, there's trepidation and there's concern and there's a lot of stress to begin with, talking in groups, how am I going to be, what's going to come up for me? And we really attempt to make the container safe for people, and people are okay to be vulnerable. And so I want to acknowledge that, because that's a big part of this work, is showing up. Unless we're willing to show up, nothing happens. Yeah. And even that's quite tricky. So I just wanted to name that, really, that there's people that I acknowledge that came before us, that got us here, and to the people who show up. And that. And I guess the key phrase or tip that I would offer is what I've already mentioned, is take a breath. Be okay to, in the heat of the moment, to just even close eyes and take a breath, and then find a little bit more space in order for us to be a little bit more connected to what we might say next or what we might do next. Yeah, that's been gold for me in my journey. So that's what I wanted to offer.
How can people reach out to you now? What are you offering?
Yep, how can people reach out? Practically? You mean 0800 whenanddeb.com?
Does that exist?
So yes.
That kind of thing.
So we're at the meditating. It's pretty hard to forget. Pretty hard. We're at the meditating Giraffe. Oh, frozen.
It might be. We're good.
We're at the www.meditatinggiraffe.co.nz.
Cool.
Facebook Meditating Giraffe. People can just get hold of us if they want to. The workshop, we're all Zoom based at the moment, so you can from your own home. Something else that's been quite popular in the recent few weeks is people contacting us, and we've been doing small mini workshops for people in relationship and people in work. So we're running one workshop and a possible one coming up, just with 2 people in each one. They're just a couple of friends that have got together to learn, and so they get that real one-on, 2 with us to practice. So it's just a matter of just getting hold of us and see what's coming up, and we're just at the moment adapting to everything to online, and then we'll just see what happens with them. And the wonderful thing, which you're probably finding with the podcast, that the reach goes now much beyond Auckland and New Zealand, and we're working with a couple tonight from Europe, and so you can just kind of connect with us through Facebook or our website.
Great.
Yeah, any other way? Can't come round at the
Can't
moment.
fax us, we have no fax.
No.
You haven't got a somewhere in your house?
A parcel? No. We
That'd be
haven't.
pretty
No
cool.
pigeons, we don't have pigeons.